Hello, everybody. Welcome. How are you? Welcome to Let's Chat on Sunday. And I first want to just thank everybody. Cassie got home to the UK just fine. I want to thank everyone for their prayers. She was very nervous and anxiety ridden, so she made it. And so thank you so much. It's so nice to have a community you can turn to when you need a little extra oomph. I want to introduce our wonderful guest. It is Kevin, and he is Kevin Chandler, and he is the founder and host of the YouTube channel, Kevin's Loving Vibrations. And Kevin is a psychic, intuitive, tarot reader, Reiki master, and spiritual teacher and mentor. So welcome, Kevin.
No, thank you so much for having me, Kim. I so enjoyed having you on my channel, and thank you so much for inviting me on yours. I really appreciate that. And hello, everyone.
You're so welcome. And I was happy to be on your channel. And this is a little different because I know that you read on politics like I do, but this is kind of just a break from that. And we all need a breather every so often.
I kind of shifted up where, obviously there's so much going on in the world right now. So just to kind of, talk about different topics and, spiritual journey and any spiritual questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love these kind of conversations too. I just love talking about spirituality and spiritual things and the ego and all of the things that we talk about when we talk about, spiritual. I just find it all so fascinating, interesting. And I particularly love, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show is because I particularly love hearing people's stories, hearing people's journeys, because there's always a part of it that everybody can relate to. And I think and it also points out that every journey is different. Everybody's different, and it's okay. I'm kind of a late bloomer, so I totally, fall into that category. But can you tell us where your spiritual journey began?
Yeah, absolutely. For myself too, it's, when you're a child and you experience something, sometimes you don't necessarily think of it as intuitive abilities. Definitely, I never thought of myself as intuitive as a kid. And for myself, I would say my intuitive abilities really kicked in important situations, or maybe even like dangerous situations, where you just get like that gut feeling that something doesn't feel quite right here. As a kid, I was always terrified of the dark, because I would, as a lot of kids, they're very sensitive and they kind of open up as they're relaxing. And so for me, I would hear things and feel things and see things, and it really scared me. So for a long part of my life, I feel like I really kind of turned that intuitive abilities off, just out of the fear state of it, unless it was, like getting into a car accident or something like that, and having like a vision or some kind of like dream beforehand, or just something like getting in the car and maybe I shouldn't go this way. Something doesn't feel quite right about this.
Right.
So I'll say for myself, that's kind of how I started. I was always really interested in psychic work and paranormal stuff. Definitely having some paranormal activities as a kid, seeing ghosts, and even living in a haunted house. That there was some darkness in that. Definitely, it intrigued me of like life after death, and what's beyond even our comprehension. So I was always really interested in that aspect. For myself, I somehow got drawn into a lot of the YouTube readers around the 2016 election, and from that too, really developing my own gifts and learning tarot and drawing on Hillary versus Trump, and something just called me to that at that time. It's like something I knew that I needed to learn at this moment, and it was going to just grow and evolve. And so really getting interested in it, I think specifically around that time, and then even maybe typing in the chats of other readers. And you, Kim, I don't remember quite when you started your channel, but I was a big fan of your content when you decided to start. And so yeah, just kind of practicing and really kind of developing that skill.
Mm-hmm.
And and I would say for me, my awakening moment really happened around COVID time. I I was working in a restaurant as a bartender and server, and so when the pandemic hit, I was unemployed for about a year and a half, and so I had a lot of childhood trauma that I had bottled up, and work was kind of a way to escape some of that trauma or some of that heaviness. You kind of just divert your attention away from that, and and definitely some unhealthy habits as well. And for myself, I started a Reiki class because I did have a Reiki treatment um, a couple years before. I was having really bad stomach issues, and after I sorry, I'm not the best at explaining, but storytelling, but um,
You're doing fine. I'm following you.
I was at a metaphysical store where they had a Reiki, and that was my first time ever being introduced to Reiki healing. I'm not really sure what that is, and just a 20-minute session. Um, I didn't have a stomach attack or issue for almost a year. So really finding that really interesting. But as I was saying, being unemployed, it was like all of that trauma just started bubbling up to the surface and I couldn't hide from it anymore. And so I took a level one Reiki class and really focused on my own healing and, just with that Reiki attunement. Um, I'll say I felt like I was buzzing for like 2 or 3 weeks after that attunement, and just all of that, those senses and intuitive abilities really just strengthened for me. It was like that tune up and kind of clearing away any of the heaviness that was, grounding me, vibrating very lowly to the ground. And so I just got to a place where I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I felt called to start my own YouTube channel. And so I just got out of my own way, let go of the fear, and just started it. And um, I mean, here I am. I've been on YouTube for about 2.5 years, and I feel like I'm constantly developing and growing along with everybody else. I mean, I think COVID for a lot of people was that transitional period where people are maybe not settling for what they had settled for before, or they have those strong boundaries, and people are just taking those leap of faith and doing those things that their dreams, and or moving, or all these big life decisions. And so and so yeah, it's definitely a time of transformation, and we're all kind of shifting energetically. So it's a wonderful community to be a part of, and to
It
grow with.
really is. And Denise, I just wanted to put Denise's comment. She says she's gotten messages all her life too, and she's never
Hmm.
questioned those. And I think
Yeah.
that is so important, right? That trust, that trusting that this is um, something that's speaking to you. Thank you, Rhonda Rue. I appreciate that. Um, Something that's not you. It might be in
Hmm.
your voice, but it's not you. And that um, being able to move into that trust, that's
Hmm.
um, a big barrier. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people go through. Did you find that it was an easy thing to do, or did you find that you kind of went back and forth?
Well, I would say at first I definitely went back and forth with it. Um, but then I think just through trusting that intuition and that gut feeling, and then figuring out that something wasn't very great that happened, and when I decided to follow that gut feeling that I had later, I think you get to a place where you just trust it.
And you mentioned, I started my channel at about 2000. It was around, I think it was September, October of 2017.
Yeah.
And for the same reasons you did, I started getting messages about I've always loved politics when it was normal. When it was
Right.
normal, I always loved politics. I grew up in My mom was a staunch Democrat. My dad was an old guard Republican. And so the
Mm,
conversations were a lot of times about current events and political
yeah.
stuff. My sisters are very all feminists and very, so we'd all, gang up on my dad. Um, but I wonder, first of all, how did you make the decision to go into political
Mm,
tarot reading? Because automatically you're opening yourself up to, you know, you're a fake, you're a fraud. That's not true. Trump's going to win. Da, da, da.
yeah.
You automatically open yourself to kind of an onslaught. So,
Mm,
what made you decide to to go that route? And also, how did you make the leap to start your own channel? Because doing this in the comfort of your home and with your friends and family that get this stuff is
mhm.
one thing, but opening yourself up publicly is something else. So those
Yeah.
two things, yeah, take whichever one you want first.
Yeah, and I'll just say for myself, it definitely was way out of my comfort zone and still is at times. I think I'm a little bit introverted and, I like, it's definitely probably not the most natural for me to, to I just hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So, I mean, it's a
Yay,
big audience at
congratulations.
times.
That's a big jump,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll just
That's
say for
great.
myself, though, very similarly to you, you have that family dynamic of, um, I would say my mom and my sisters are very much Democrats, and then like my grandma was a Republican, my father was a Republican, so it's kind of hearing all of these different opinions and all this different, insight of how people really think about some of this stuff, and then just finding your own voice and your own opinions.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I've been a lifelong Democrat as well. That's voting since Obama got in. Um, so I was always interested in politics, and like I said, I just felt like a shift happening, I guess, around the 2016 election, and I wandered into this community, and I think it was the start of it. Um, and I don't know, I just found it really intriguing, and I just felt called to start learning tarot and just kind of throwing with what some of the other readers were saying and seeing what I got, and you know learning their interpretation of the tarot cards. And then I think as Trump got elected, obviously it was a very dark place for a lot of us. And so, um, just kind of turning to tarot for comfort, I guess, and just developing your own intuitive abilities. It was something I just felt called to. And then I would say, like I said, with the Reiki attunement in 2020, I think it was 2020, maybe it was 2021, my level one, um, all of my intuitive abilities just seemed to grow just dramatically. They felt a lot stronger. I kind of thought of it as energy work, tapping into those loving vibrations and really lightening up your energy so you're more in sync and compatible with your guides or loved ones. Um, and just working on raising your overall vibration, I felt like it really helped with connecting and receiving those messages. And then I think I just got to a point too where I just wanted to get outside of my comfort zone, and I had very much felt called to start my own YouTube channel for a couple years before I even started it. Um, and so I just got to a place where I felt comfortable and let go of the fear and let go of the doubt and just put myself out there. And it's really interesting because I had a lot of people recognize me from the chats, from the other readers, and kind of putting my own hits of what I was getting with it. And and yeah, so I already had a good following when I first started, and then I do a weekly show with Mel Dore, and so my channel really took off pretty quickly. And so I've just kind of kept that faith and haven't looked back. And it's amazing too when you can get out of your own way. Just all of the wonderful blessings that come in with that. A lot of people in the community right now are, you know, the energy is very heavy and very uncertain. And so I think they turn to a lot of us readers for that comfort. And that support during these hard times. So that's why I do it, just to help keep people calm and grounded. Um, the world's kind of moving by so quickly, so hard to keep up with everything. Yeah,
Absolutely. And Firefly, you guys kept me sane during the political chaos. And likewise, I mean,
yeah,
I had such comfort talking to people on in the chat and in my club, and it really is so comforting to have people, um, nice people supporting each other,
hmm,
because there'll be conversations going on in the chat that, and somebody's going through something and they're all saying it's okay, it's going to be okay, oh, I went through that. It's just so heartwarming how people support each other in these
hmm.
communities. um, it's amazing, and I that's why I love it.
And it's amazing too, as we're kind of shifting and I always tell people the hardest things that we endure in life are those that are the greatest opportunities to learn. And we've all been kind of dealing with that for so long. Sometimes the hard thing is that it doesn't happen quickly, the
Mhm.
timing of it all. But yeah, I feel like with Trump and then with the pandemic, it's brought all of us light workers together to really make this positive change that we need for our future. And there's just so much love and support. I always look forward to my weekly shows and reconnecting with everybody just because it's so uplifting. There's just so much love anytime you're going through something and, you just need some of those prayers or healing energy. And everybody's there just to lift you up and just send you a lot of love and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to shift a little bit
Yeah.
into asking you about, um, going into the YouTube world.
Hmm.
At the very beginning, I was really consciously aware of the fact I'm not going to look at numbers. I'm not going to, get hung up on this or that, with, if I got on this thing, or if I did, it was just not going to, I felt like I needed to go into this and stay in this for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and so how do you navigate that? Because um, there can be sometimes, um, competition that comes
Hmm.
up, or you know your ego runs away with you,
Yeah.
or in a good way or a bad way, right? Either you're taking everything to heart because you're so sensitive, and your ego's kind of, that's where mine is, by the way.
Hmm.
I'm more on that end of like being kind of self-conscious and not sure if I
Yeah.
should have said that. So, or running away the other way, I can do no wrong and look how great I am and I know, at all.
Yeah.
But how did you navigate that, and was it a conscious decision, I'm gonna make it this way?
Mm. Yeah. I'll just say for myself, I definitely didn't go in expecting, like I said, I just hit 10K, which is really awesome. And I didn't go in expecting, all these huge numbers. I would say for myself too, I think it was a month or two after I started my channel, Mel Dore reached out and wanted to do a show. And I just knew intuitively once I took that step that everything was going to take off and there was like no turning back. So I wanted to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and get really kind of familiar with it before I did that. But for myself, I struggle with it at times. I mean, I would say that I'm very much grounded and down to earth, and I just integrity is really important to me. So I always just, there's been times I've disagreed with other readers, really respectively, but I just kind of have to go in and just say what I'm feeling and intuiting and just kind of going in with that and going into that, I very well could be wrong and just not holding under that pressure of being wrong. Um, in regards, I would say too that, I definitely don't feel like I have a hard time promoting myself, to put myself out there for anybody that might be interested in a reading or a Reiki session. But I also put myself out there to help everybody too with all of the hard things that we're going through. So I don't have an issue so much with promoting myself or asking people to subscribe to my channel, which I know some people, um, they feel a bit guilty or like pushing it. Um, but in regards to competition, I would just say that I've encountered some people that I did feel like were just interested in what the numbers were of their subscriber counts, and I just follow my gut, and I work with people that I really resonate really well with, that I know have that integrity, and um, are respectful of other people, and I just don't tune into maybe some that are a little bit more ego forward, and it's not necessarily a bad way, but when you're saying I'm right and you're wrong or something like that, that doesn't resonate with me.
Right, because that's so interesting that you say that, because I was just thinking today that how so often, because we've got the energy superhighway, right, and we grasp onto things that we resonate with.
Yeah.
And that's what the information we pull in, and kind of like where we meet it, and that's what we grab onto, or that's what we get. So it could be an event, but you're picking up the end of the event, and I'm picking up the middle of the event, and so that's where you can kind of be different than other readers. I think you just, wherever you are and whatever energy line you're following, that's what you're going to pick up. I want to ask you about also about skeptics, because I watched this. I have got to talk about this with someone. So that's why I'm selfishly bringing this up, because I've got to talk about this. Someone sent me a clip, a YouTube video that was with this kid. I can't remember his last name, Tyler somebody. He's a medium. He's on TV. He has his own show. I think I've seen him.
You're talking about.
Yeah. So, and he's like a really nice kid and very sincere. And they took him into, Dr. Drew, from whatever, all this stuff he does. But he took him in to look at his brain waves to see what was happening while he was reading. And it was fascinating. And really what was happening was his brain waves were kind of going into a type of dream state.
Yeah.
And whenever he'd connect, he was kind of in that dream state, or, a very deep meditative state. And they're like, well, this is incredible, and blah, blah, blah. And as soon as he would turn his focus to the person that was deceased that he was reading, that's when that brainwave thing would start. Like, oh, this is fascinating. What bugged me was that Dr. Drew, he's seeing this with his own eyes, right? And then he's giving this incredible reading. This Tyler kid is like reading for a skeptic. The skeptic is like, oh my gosh, this is right. And he just nailed it. And Dr. Drew is like, well, I want to see what's going on, but the one thing I know is that he's not talking to dead people. And he came up with some weird, sometimes, our thought forms and personality fragments can be scattered and they can pick them up. I'm like, how is that less weird than, and I thought he's just one of those, he's a cynic is what I would call a cynic, not really a skeptic. He's a cynic. He does not want to believe that. He's not going to believe that no matter what. And I just wonder, I kind of have always felt that people that work with skeptics, that are big skeptics like that, are probably the ones that are on TV. That's their calling, is to convince people, right? Yeah. I don't think that's my calling, and I never have. I'm just like, I'm weak in my, whatever, my ego structure. I just can't do it. So I don't have skeptics that come, because I tell them don't, because that's not my calling, and go to somebody that is their calling, because that's what they do. That's not what I do. If you come to me, it'll block me. Yeah. It'll cut me off, because I find the best readings are when the sitter is involved, and they're open, and they're awake, and they're thinking and trying to, help you rather than hinder you. So
that resonates with me too, Kim.
Okay, I was going to say, how do you deal with skeptics? Because because that was my, I was like, I don't do it.
So it's like when somebody comes in closed off, they have that shield up. It does make it a bit harder to um to read into it. For myself, I'm very much like you. Like, I'm going to tell you what I'm getting. If you don't like it, you don't like it. I'm not going to try to convince you. You're allowed to believe whatever you believe, and I find that we all connect with different readers in different ways. It's all about who you resonate with, and I would say the readers and psychics that you really resonate with, those are the readers to keep. And you
Mhm,
might come across some that you just don't feel, or you don't feel like the information coming through is really resonating with you, and that's totally valid. Um, but yeah, like you, Kim, I mean, I'm very empathic. I almost call myself an energy intuitive. So if somebody books a reading with me, it's almost like a consultation. I think if people are open about talking about their goals or backstories, for me, it helps me feel into the energy to feel like if this is resonating, if this is the direction of your goal, if that seems like that's what's going to happen, or if maybe we should shift that goal a little bit. And
mhm.
as we kind of talk to it, kind of it like opens up to that knowing. Um, and then very similarly, just using like tarot cards and feeling the energy of those and where that's most likely to lead. So I feel like when people are open to it, it makes it so much more of an easier read for me, and they end up usually being a lot more happier with the reading, because oftentimes I feel like we know a lot of the answers, and they turn to psychics because they want that validation or clarity of what they're picking up too. Um, and sometimes energy shifts, and it's hard with the free will, but overall, you know people get a sense. We're all intuitives. We can all kind of feel like where the energy is leading us. And then sometimes too, seeing a psychic, you're getting more information um, for these goals that you have for yourself. And sometimes you might hear something that you don't like, and then you can make those free will decisions. We can talk about ways to shift that outcome of where it's most likely to go. So
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of how I do a reading. I just kind of see where the energy takes us. And in regards to skeptics, I guess I would just say that I don't worry about it. Whatever's going to come through is going to come through. If it doesn't resonate with you, then maybe there's a better reader out there for you.
Right. And that's one reason that I love to have people on to promote other readers, because
Hmm.
you're right. One reader is not going to resonate with everybody.
Yeah.
We have to have lots and lots of different kinds of people, different kinds of methods, different kinds of tools that they use,
Hmm.
and you find the things that resonate with you, and it literally is resonating, right? Your
Hmm.
vibration is in line with their where their vibration is, and it
You're
really
sharing that
is
space.
resonance.
You're sharing that space when you're giving a reading.
Yeah.
And that's why that openness is so important, I think, at least for myself. And I would agree with that, Kim. We all have different gifts and different skills that we can offer everybody. There's so many different types of readings that you can get. Even when I do a Reiki session, it's almost a reading in itself, because I'm in a trance and I'm seeing symbols and animals are coming in, or these beautiful colors are coming in, and then you just use that intuition to decipher you know, what's this meaning in the situation. So there's so many different kind of readings that.
Do you how do you what part do guides play in your life? Do you feel like you are constantly listening to them all the
Mhm.
time? Do you try to save the big conversations for when you're reading or when you're doing something like this? Where do they come in for you?
I would say that I'm open to them, but it's not like an active communication all day. For me, I find when I just kind of want to rest and recharge, just going outside. I have a beautiful patio and garden space, and for me, I often receive a lot of messages and guidance through all these wonderful birds that get sent my way. And so, just kind of clearing and opening up in that kind of space is where I do a lot of that inner work with the connecting to the guides. And then, yeah, I would say during readings or whenever they, something's important and I get that message. But it's not for me always actively trying to talk or, I feel like for the most part, they send me the messages when I need them,
Right.
I
And
think
I
just being open to it,
yeah, I
open
think
to repeating
that's
signs
it.
and numbers. Yeah.
When you're aligned, it seems like, well, when you're aligned with your own spirit, when your personality is aligned with your own spirit, or when your physical self is aligned with your own spirit, and then you're aligned with your guides, I just feel like life has a flow to it.
Mm.
It's not that bad things don't still happen. And little things that are annoying still happen. Of course they do, because you're in a physical, world
Right.
and stuff happens.
Yeah, it's like,
But it just seems like it's just so much easier to move through things.
mm,
I just always think, when you're doing your spiritual work every day, or when you're doing your spiritual practice every day, the reason you do it is for when those negative things happen, or bad things happen, or something you didn't expect happens, then you have the tools to pull out of your toolbox and use them.
yeah.
I think sometimes, especially like early on when I was just starting to kind of understand this stuff, I was grasping different concepts all of a sudden. And this was like back in about 2008,
Hmm.
2009. That was my like explosion happened. I just felt like, well, where was that? What was I talking about?
You were talking about,
I was just starting to think
connecting with
about
the
2008.
guides and when you're
Oh,
first
yes.
beginning.
Yeah, sorry about that. It just seems like when when you're first beginning, it's kind of like you're like, oh, this negative thing happened. Why am I even doing this spiritual work if it doesn't help me, if it doesn't stop the bad things from happening? That's
Hmm.
a kind of to me a kind of a junior spiritual way of thinking you might
Yeah.
have. And I see that a lot, even with people that I read for. Sometimes it's like, I'm spiritual. This bad thing should not be happening.
Mm.
The bad things shouldn't be happening anymore because I'm spiritual, or I'm logged in every day. But what I think it does is it just makes things smoother. You move through the difficulties, to me, quicker
Hmm.
and with more ease. And that's
Absolutely.
the beauty of it. What do you think?
Well, I agree with that 100%. I, I feel like when I first started, like I said, I use more of tarot rather than like the channeling and connecting with the guides. I mean, the guides are still connected and that they're, you know, picking the cards and the energy or the insight that's coming to you as you're, reading the cards. But I think it's also important sometimes when we're looking to grow, sometimes we overcomplicate things. Using your intuition is the easiest and hardest thing at the same time to do. If you overcomplicate it, it's very instilled in us. But sometimes, we have to overcomplicate it or doubt it, or is this real, or am I overthinking it? Like, um, and so I think too, it kind of comes with practice as you kind of find the tools that resonate with you, or your own connection with your guides. You find you know, as you're continuing to do it, it just becomes easier and easier, and it's more relaxed. Um, what was the last part of the question? I'm sorry, Kim.
It's just, I was asking about how, kind of what part your guides play, but I was also
Mhm.
talking about the fact that when when you're in that spiritual
When you're going
um,
through the hard times.
space, it's just things seem easier. They just seem
Mhm.
like life flows more easily, even through negative stuff, even
Yeah.
through the negative stuff. So that was kind of the other part of the question, was just how that, yeah, how you work through those
Mhm.
things.
Right. It's almost like I think when you can trust in spirit and you can let go of the control, it does make things so much quicker and easier, even in hard times. And it's all about, I think, just keeping that uplifted perspective. And it can be a challenge at times, especially I would say for myself, 2023 was, I think I had Saturn directed my chart somewhere, I had a lot of lessons to learn. But think of it as a lesson that you're kind of moving through, and um, just having faith that it will shift, and just kind of tap into, well, what am I meant to learn from this experience, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable. That's ultimately what we're all down here for. Earth is our school where we can grow and evolve spiritually and grow. So I think just putting it in that perspective really kind of helps. Um, and just even during the harder times, it feels like you're a little bit more grounded, you're more aligned. So it, you know, you kind of shift through it a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah. And Wiki says where human stuff happens, it's how you react to it. And
Yeah.
I think it's exactly right. And it gives you tools and how to react to it. I think that's the beauty of it. And why you do a spiritual practice every day.
Yeah.
Because when you check in every day, it's so much easier to check in when you're in those spots of, I don't know what to do, or how do I work
Mm,
through this? And we all have them, no matter how
yeah.
spiritual or not spiritual you are, you're going to have those hurdles or things that happen or these unexpected things. I mean, and we all
Hmm.
experience the big stuff, a death, losing a job, having
Yeah.
to, whatever, having to move suddenly, or it's all part of the game. So I,
I would
on
just
your,
say with that real quick, Kim.
yeah,
I feel like, yeah, oftentimes too, if we can let go and resist controlling an outcome and just kind of trusting and going with the flow. Oftentimes, when we're going through something hard, it's shifting us into a better place. So it's just trusting in spirit that this thing is no longer serving us, like if with a job, and it's opening up a brand new, wonderful opportunity for you to come in.
that's so important. That shift in perception, right? Being
Mhm.
able to see it a different way.
Yeah,
That is, in A Course in Miracles, that's the miracle, that shift in perception. Let me see this a different way so that I
yeah.
can understand it better.
It's all about
Um,
your reality and the energy that you're sitting in.
yes.
I think sometimes it's so much harder to, I mean, for myself, I would say in the past, I could be negative, or I would say it more of a realist where I kept things real, or like realistically, this isn't going to happen like that. But I think as I've grown too, and, um, you just, it's all about rewiring and reprogramming maybe some of those thoughts or habits, and just seeing the light in life, all the beauty, and just staying in that space. And yeah, sure, sometimes we have times that are a little crappy and hard to get through, and it's just persevering through it, and keeping focus on this bright new beginning for you in the future.
I love that. Now I'm going to shift to a big world question, which is um, about 2018.
Mm,
My guide started talking about this shift that we were going to be going through. And they said the first part of this shift was going to be what they called the unearthing.
mm,
Everything coming to the surface, all the stuff that was hidden is up, all
mhm,
the leaks and the 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 what would I call it? The boundaries that seem to be there, but they're not really there. The breaches in the boundaries that we thought were there are not there, and
mm,
everything's kind of coming up to the surface so that we can see it, and then
yeah.
we can face it, and that's the second phase, facing it,
Mhm.
which I think we're moving into that phase right now, and then fixing it, finally fixing it. What do you make of the current state of the world? And do you believe we're in a shift of consciousness?
Absolutely. And very similarly, I mean, I think you probably described it better than I could, but um, yeah, I mean, I've gotten that same hit. I had like a really intense download from an ET right around the time I started my channel, and it was all about the shift that we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
I
it's
just cheesed for some
unearthing.
reason when you said that. That's weird.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they're just saying like, that's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's all about unearthing everything that's been hidden, everything that's been kept in the dark, all of the you know, hard stuff, negative biases towards people, the judgment, um, what's the word that I'm trying to think of? You know, um, all of the corruption that was kind of hidden
Yes.
underneath the surface. And yes, collectively and universally, we're kind of shifting where all of this stuff is being exposed, and it's being brought to our attention so that we can learn this lesson, so we can acknowledge it, we can feel it, we can live through it, and then, yeah, what do we do from it? What actions are we going to take to shift us into a more positive future? And I think that's very much similar to like the concept of like the new Earth, if you're familiar with Dolores Cannon.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
uh, you know, I really loved her concepts on it, but that's what we're doing. We're just shifting and going into a more enlightened and heart stated society. And I
Right.
mean, there's always going to be negative things out there, but it's like we're coming out of um, where the good is more prevailing. You know, that love
Right.
and light is more prevailing, and that kind of goes into that whole concept too of what energy are you going to sit in. You know,
Right.
how are you going to view life? You know, we're we're dealing with like all the earth changes and all of that along with it, and it's, you know, we have to be adaptable. We have to let go a little bit, and that's why we're kind of seeing all of this um, you know, negative or tumultuous energy. It's all about how you're going to deal with it and shift and be adaptable through it. But we are shifting. It's like a decade long cycle. I think it started with Trump. I think for a lot of people, COVID really was like the thing that like accelerated and pumped on the brakes really hard. It got a lot of us out of our comfort zone, and so now we're all kind of reevaluating what's serving us, what's working for us, and we're making that shift into those things that we want for ourselves. Um, and you know, even going into 2024, it's going to be. It feels like it's going to be very similar to 2023. Things continuing to be unearthing, but then like I think going into 2025, 2026, it's like a lot of positive changes are coming in. So and like rules and regulations, I think especially with we're talking about like government and you know a lot of the corruption there. Um, we're putting in those guardrails so that we don't revert back.
Right. That was what the other word I was trying to think of, guardrails. I
Mhm.
kept saying
Yeah.
boundaries, guardrails. Yes. Yes, exactly. And do you, yeah, I mean, COVID, right? The
Mm,
world shut down
yeah,
to
it's that.
reassess
Mhm.
everybody reassess their own life. Now people are working from home. They have switched careers. They
Mhm.
did the things they always wanted to do, but they didn't have the time.
Started their
Um,
own businesses. A lot of people have
yes,
been wanting to do that, and yeah,
yes.
it's like all the clients I hear, they're making all these big life decisions. This area that I'm living in is no longer serving me, so I'm moving across the country. I'm starting my own business. You know, I'm moving away from family members that I don't resonate with their energy anymore. You know, it's all part of this shift.
A- Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you about something too, from a spiritual perspective,
Mhm.
because we all know this is happening and we all know it's weird, but I want to get your just I pick your brain a little bit and see what you think spiritually is going on here. We have all of these public meltdowns, right? You see them on YouTube. They even have shows, customer wars,
Yeah.
Christmas wars, these public meltdowns. What is that? I mean, I
Mm.
think that one answer could be, which is something because I love Eckhart Tolle, and one of his big teachings is about the pain body, and that the
Mm.
pain body can, and it's basically unexpressed emotions that are kind of lay dormant, and then somebody will say or do the wrong thing, and boom, here all comes all this stuff that's been just dormant.
Yeah.
So that's like triggers. That's what we're talking about. Um, I have a feeling that there has been some, especially with women, I think some
Mhm.
pain body activation
Yeah.
with all of this stuff happening with, well, white men, no offense, Kevin, but white men trying to tell them what to do in every facet of their life. And it's annoying and, getting, I think that triggers
Mm.
people. And so they have person at the counter that says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing. And here comes all this stuff. I also think Trump gave permission for this kind of public, obnoxious, meltdown, and I don't like you and I don't like this, and basically tantrums in public. Yeah. But what do you think? What do you think is going on from a spiritual perspective?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would agree with everything that you said. I mean, Trump kind of threw the gasoline on allowing all this anger and hatred and made it feel like it was okay. But I would also say too, it kind of goes back to our last question of us shifting. And I think a lot of people are really resistant to change or to take accountability for themselves and their actions. And so it's like, by not being phased or giving somebody the energy that they want, it's like they're more triggered, I think, because they're trying to hold on to the old ways, their own ways, old ways of handling things. And so when they don't get the reaction, it's just like an explosion of emotions.
I
think it's multi-layered, but and I think the energy is very overwhelming too, as we are kind of shifting. There are some days that it's very depleting, and some days where it's super energizing, and it's like the energy is just all over the place. Tomorrow we have all this solar flare activity, and it's depleting, and then it's like the next day or 2 days later, it's like everything's moving so quickly. It's very overwhelming, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that if people that don't have a spiritual anchor right now, I don't know how scary that would be. That would be so frightening to just think that everything and everyone's just going crazy, and to not have that spiritual kind of, not in a, we're more evolved than you, but in a way, spiritually evolving. We're all spiritually evolving at our own rates. And I think you're right. I think there's a fear thing and feeling threatened. You're right. This kind of way of being, it seems in all facets is being threatened, and people are trying to hold on to what is familiar or what they've known, even if it's not working. It's what they've known. So, and then Dean brings up the collective pain body as well, as Americans, as African Americans, as Native American. You have all of these collective pain bodies being triggered by racist comments or all this stuff with anti-Semitism right now. It is like it's the unearthing, and it feels like it's like everybody's a volcano right now. But yeah, go ahead. You're going to say.
No, that was pretty much what I was going to say. It's like everybody's just really triggered, and everything's so polarized right now. So it's hard to kind of work through that. And yeah, when you're going to resist the change or, and kind of just stay in your own ways. Yeah, it's like a volcano.
Yeah. And, Firefly brings up the emotions, so much emotion, and which is one of the reasons, but, believe it or not, at this moment, it's kind of hard to believe, but it's one of the reasons why we like to have this human experience, is because of the range of emotions that we experience. We just don't experience that in the spirit realm. It's not that kind of dense, low. We don't have that.
I actually think it's a really exciting time to be on Earth, even though it's so hard for us. But there's so much change, and there's so much coming out and being unearthed. And so it's like we're really we're in charge of this shift. And, it's not easy, but it's a wonderful time to really grow and to tap into your full potential and highest self. If you're open to it, if you're not resisting it.
That's it. If you're not in resistance to it, I think that's just, such an important point. So what is there a practice or something you do to, in those moments of what's going on, that you like to turn to?
Yeah. For myself, and I've been told by a lot of people they find my voice very grounding and soothing and just my overall energy. But internally, I don't always feel that way. Sometimes I do feel a little bit anxious, especially with like the profile and putting myself out there. But for myself, I think just breathing,
Mhm.
bringing that attention to the present moment, and just breathing into the present, letting go of everything else kind of going on in the world, and just focusing inside and being empty. For myself, I kind of incorporate my meditation in with my daily Reiki session. So for myself, it's kind of just like clearing away any old stagnant energy or worries or fears, and just kind of bringing in that light and love, and just kind of almost getting into a trance and seeing what's coming through for me at that time too. So that's how I kind of deal with it. Um, I like to clear and smudge, or you can clear with the Reiki energy too. So I feel like I tend to go back to the Reiki with a lot of it, even before I have clients, just kind of lifting me up energetically, and um, just kind of clearing away any old stagnant energy. Just kind of
Well,
breathing to it though.
yeah, that's great. And I too turn to the breath. I think it's such
Mm.
an easy, quick way to get out of your head and to just kind of, get here and now. And I think that's always a comfort. Um, so my last question before I ask you about your stuff that you do,
Yeah.
is do you think I've heard from some NDEers, some spiritual kind of, I guess they're spiritual, not really teachers, but spiritual um, uh, people that just like to explore spirituality. I don't know what you call them, but like spiritual explorers, I guess,
Yeah.
is that that we may be uh, kind of coming to the grand finale of the Earth experiment. And
Mm.
it doesn't mean it would be tomorrow. It just means that there's something that is the veil is thinning. Our electronics are getting so good that we're seeing
Mm.
spirits, we're hearing spirits,
Yeah.
there's something that's going on here that's has never happened before. So, do you think that's a possibility that this kind of Earth experiment or this Earth school is somehow coming to kind of an end in the way it's been?
Yeah. It's all part of the shift. It's like we're moving out of a 3D reality into a higher 4D, 5D reality, more heart centered and loving society. Um, but I still feel like there's still going to be lessons to learn. It's not going to always be um, sunshine and rainbows and lollipops. I mean, um, that's ultimately what we're down here for, is to learn and to grow.
Right.
But it does. That's where I think before, when I was saying about having to be adaptable and just kind of letting go of the control, and just going with the flow a little bit. I think we're kind of heading into that a little bit, where the hard things aren't so triggering. Um, the energy does feel kind of, as we're shifting, it does kind of settle down, but there's still things that we're meant to experience and learn from.
Right. I love that answer. So, um, Kevin, tell people what services you offer, and also where's the best place to find you or um, to get to use your services.
Yeah. Well, I would just say real quick, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go over and subscribe. Kevin Loving Vibrations. Um, I just hit 10,000 subscribers, and for every 1,000 subscribers that I hit, I do a free reading and Reiki giveaway, which I will talk more about on my weekly Tuesday show. Um, so you do have to be subscribed to the channel to enter, but if that's something that you might be interested, please come over, subscribe to my channel. We do a lot of politics. I have wonderful collaborations weekly that I do. Um, but yeah, I'll be talking more about how to enter my giveaway on Tuesday. Um, so for myself, I don't quite yet have a website built, although I'm feeling like 2024, that's going to definitely be like my biggest goal. But you can reach me at kevinlovingvibrations@gmail.com and send me an email. I do offer readings, 30-minute or 60-minute. I offer hour time slot Reiki sessions. And then I also offer a bit of a combination of the both. I call it a healing and guidance package, where you get a 30-minute reading. And when I created it, I kind of did it in, well, what is Spirit saying and what does it want to bring into the Reiki session? What intentions and guidance needs to be brought into it? But a lot of times, too, people just want a bit of a combo of the reading and then the Reiki, which I'm totally fine with, too. So those are the things that I offer. And just send me an email, kevinlovingvibrations@gmail.com, and I can go into all the information and get something set up for you.
Awesome. And I have your link to your channel in the description. I'll add your Gmail so that people can get a hold of you. And do you mind just pulling a card for the collective for the next week, something to focus on or something? I'm going to pull one of my cards, Kevin.
Oh yeah, that's so cool, Kim. I feel called. Maybe one day I'll make my own deck. Although I don't want to say I'm not creative, but I'm not very artistic, I would say, in that sense of it. But I feel like if it's meant to happen and be developed, I'll get the help that I need there. But that's so awesome. I think that's so cool to have something so personal.
It's something I'm really proud of because it was not easy, and it took a long time to get like what are these supposed to be? Because I'm not really I'm not tarot card reader, so I was like, what are these supposed to be? The power of intention. These are my cards, and but it's something I live by. I talk about all the time, so I'm like, of course that's what it would be. What would I think? Why would I think that would be something else? Okay.
I love this deck, and I like to sometimes end on a reading with this. It's postcards from Spirit, and on this card, it's being sent with love. There's a beautiful swan in the middle of it. But the message for us for the next week is, dearest you, do you know how much we love you and want to help you? We are here for you, and we hear you ask for guidance, but you must let go and let us help you. You don't have to do it all yourself. You've done your part. Now let us do ours. You would be awestruck if you knew how many strings were pulled through the matrix to give you what you need and desire. Spirit has a plan, and when you sign up to be a co-creator, you need to remember to allow the partnership. It is not one-sided. Your desires and plans meet with those of Spirit. Remember, though, Spirit's timetable and ideas of how things will play out may be quite different than yours. Trust us. Spirit's ideas are amazing. Now let go and let us do the magic. Pay attention to other areas of your life, and before you know it, a miracle will have taken place. We love you so much. Well, I'm getting goosebumps with that.
That's beautiful. And what are those cards called, Kevin?
It's postcards from Spirit, I believe is what it's
called. Oh, I love that. So mine, the one that I pulled is patience. And it kind of leads right into that when you talked about timing and divine timing and all of that. Today, my prayer of intention is to practice patience. May I be able to have patience with people and situations in my life that require it. So there you go.
I love that.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and chatting. And we will see you next Sunday at the same time. Where my club is doing our movie night is this week. We're doing live actually for we watch secular movies and pull out the spiritual ideas or concepts in them. A lot of so see you guys next time. Thank you so much, Kevin. We'll talk again. All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.